Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
We got the same blood, the same blood. Stay by your side, it's ride or die. We've got the same blood.
All right, welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today's guest is an amazing individual. Is at over 23 years at the LAPD, 20 of those years in downtown LA and Skid Row community. He is an amazing inspirational speaker. He's a homeless advocate, law enforcement consultant. He is an individual who really, his message is what he is. And I want to start it off with a Josephism. If you are comfortable in chaos, you may be where God called you to be. Deon Joseph, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so happy to be here, brother. Thanks for having me.
I love it, and you're doing this all while you're on vacation. I mean, that means the world to me.
Yeah. Don't want to get rusty.
I love it. Well, I want to go back in time because I always ask, public servants or military, what drew you to become a police officer? Not only a police officer, but in LA. That's a tough draw. What drew you to that?
Nothing drew me to it. I was very, very anti-police as a young African-American male.
Okay.
I was indoctrinated to believe that the police were my natural enemy through high school friends, an activist group I joined, and then a couple of negative contacts with police officers didn't help that. It kind of exacerbated that mindset that I had. And but what actually happened was I had a family business with my dad and mom and brothers. It was very successful, and then the riots hit, and it really hurt our business. And I was out of work for about a good 3 to 4 months, and I just met my beautiful wife, and I put my name in so many hats, and nobody would hire me. And an uncle and a friend of mine said, "Hey, the police department's hiring. This police department's hiring. Watch out." I said, "That one? Oh, heck no. You guys just burned the city down over there." Why would I join that?
Oh, man.
I met my beautiful wife, and she was just such a wonderful woman. I wanted to be a great provider. So long story short, I joined to only do a few years and get out. And I ended up falling in love with the job the first time I actually helped save a woman from her husband who was stalking her. And that was it. That just said, hey, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then I ended up in Skid Row, and it was a completely life-changing event for me.
And how did that's a huge mindset shift. And it was actually getting into it to know that you could be a difference maker. What was that? How long did that take? You said it changed when you helped that woman, but how long did it take to make that change of mindset and really kind of be that advocate in the police force to be able to be that there is positive that we can do here? Yeah.
Well, it started a little bit before that in the academy. Going to the academy kind of helped break down the stereotypes of everything that was told to me by family and friends who had the best of intentions, but they suffered from what we call availability bias. The only thing they knew about the police was the negative things they were being shown or told about them. So that infected me as well. But the only difference between me and them was now I was on the other side. And on the other side, this is what I saw in the academy. They weren't teaching us to hate Black people. They weren't teaching us to racially profile. In fact, it was the opposite. We learned more human relations, and I learned more Spanish than how to to keep my head from being blown off my shoulders in the street. Yeah. And surprisingly, I was allowed to talk about the feelings of the African-American community towards the police, and they listened. And it was really a different experience. It blew my mind. And then I get out into the street, and I'm working with officers who are white, who are Black, Hispanic, gay, Christian, Jew, Muslim. And 99.9% of all of these individuals were just hardworking, blue collar people, decent
Yeah.
people, not perfect, who were just trying to do a tough job. But the one who really, really broke my tunnel vision about cops, surprisingly, was a white police officer who was one of my training officers named Bill Snowden. And
Okay.
I was on probation. We were on the bad side of Venice Beach, called Oakwood. And he'd been policing this beat for years, and he arrested 2,300 people for narcotics. And I'm thinking, oh my, yeah. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm working with this big white cop who everybody's going to think is a racist because he arrested everybody and their stepmom.
Yeah.
And I just, like, my mind was just racing. And when we finally get to the community, we're driving through the community, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Hey, what's up, Snow? Hey, God bless you, Snow. Thanks for helping my family. Thanks for helping my cousin. Thanks for what you did for my cousin while he was in jail. And I'm sitting here like, what the heck is going on here? I was thinking, in my mind, I was like, is this cop so corrupt that the people actually smile and wave at him out of fear? And he saw the look on my face, and he pulled the car over, and he says, you got something on your mind, young man? I said, sir, I don't understand it. You arrested half the people in this community. Why do they love you so much? And he said this to me. He says, Deon, we're in Oakwood. The people here know that we're needed. The people here know that things are bad. The only thing they ask of us is whether we're arresting them, counseling, or rescuing them, that we treat them with dignity and respect. And as long as you work with me, young man, you will treat every one of these individuals with dignity and respect. And I saw this man treating drug dealers. He was arresting them, but he wasn't humiliating them. He wasn't talking crap to them. It was crazy, and it changed my whole life and view on what policing was, juxtaposed to what I was being told. It was absolutely amazing. So that was, I think, the life-changing moment, actually working with a white police officer who was loved more by the community than anybody ever saw. It was really incredible.
That's such a powerful story, and I love the way you tell it, because the ability, and I don't know if it's tolerance, but it's like ability to communicate, I guess you could say, and understand from different perspectives. That's a huge aspect of policing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This man was able to somehow, even while doing his job, which is a noble profession, and doing it aggressively, figuratively, put down his badge and gun and be human to people at their worst moments. And I just took so much from that. And I said, I'm going to pattern my career after that guy. And I did. And then when I entered Skid Row, now it's me riding through the streets. Hey, Deon, God bless you. They didn't even call me officer. They call me Deon. Hey. It used to be Uncle Tom. Now it's Uncle. It used to be, God dang it, Deon's here. Now it's Officer Goddaddy. And it's like, it's just amazing. And I took it a step further. I never saw him hug people, but people were hugging me. An old lady had covered in scabies the other day. She hugged me. I was like, okay. I went back and took a shower afterwards, but I let her hug me. You know, it's just so I took it to a whole new level. But thanks to that man, I became, and my parents and how they raised me, I became the police officer that I was, and I'm so grateful for it.
Now, it's going in my head. So how, when you went back to your family, to your friends and your community, how did you communicate that? How was that? How were you able to communicate that, to have them understand that feeling that you had, of a different understanding of what policing was?
Well, it's very interesting because my wife's side of the family, and this is why I love my wife so much for being so supportive of me, they were not pro-police at all. These people saw police officers do horrible things in the 70s and 80s. Right. And even my uncle, who was a police officer, said, yeah, it was pretty bad. And so when I joined, I remember the night before the academy, my wife's side of the family saying, don't let those white boys change you. Don't let those white boys change. And that was the night I proposed to my wife. So imagine going from a proposal to being scolded to being told by your in-laws, don't be like those white boys.
Yeah.
And but what it was my mother-in-law, what was special about her is where my mother taught me how to love unconditionally and fight for the little guy. My mother-in-law taught me how to fight for myself, because every day I was over there, it was a fight. At my in-laws' house to talk about policing. And it taught me to defend myself and the profession and say, instead of getting offended by how people feel, understanding how they feel, because I was them, knowing that they suffer from availability bias and some things that actually happen to them. and share these stories daily of what I saw every day to let them know that no, the police aren't your enemy. There's good and bad in everything. I always tell people police officers are a microcosm of society. And by that, I mean, in the United States of America, 330 million people, I think we all can agree that the vast majority of all of those people, whether they're white, black, gay, straight, Hispanic, Jew, Hindu, even if they're devil worshippers, whatever, most of them, I may not agree with it, but most of them are decent people. They abide by the law. They're hardworking. We all can agree with that. We can also agree that in America that there's a negative exception, and there may be hundreds of thousands, maybe low millions, who are causing all the drama, wreaking all the havoc, and making America look like a rolling dumpster fire in a dry forest. We can agree with that. Okay,
that is the greatest analogy. I love that.
Yeah. Now, where do law enforcement, firefighters, and everywhere, where do we select our people from? The American public. And I can tell everybody listening that the vast majority of people they select to be police officers did not come on to become racist. They did not come on to become brutes, and they did not come on to be a part of systemic racism. None of that is true. Unfortunately, because we pulled from American society, someone's always going to end up disappointing us all. Right. But when I talk to my family, I said, what I find that's not fair is when one police officer or a handful of cops sprinkled across the nation do something horrible. It's the whole profession that needs to be
changed,
villainized. I'll argue. So one time I was with them. I said, "So let me tell you something, guys." I said, "Doctors, we all love doctors, right? Y'all still go to the doctor?" They go, "Yeah." I said, "You know, doctors killed 450,000 people in 1 year due to malpractice, malpractice, misdiagnosis, and negligence." And they go, "Yeah. Did you know that most of the people they killed were people of color?" Huh? And I said, "So why aren't you guys protesting doctors? You going to a physical tomorrow? Did you change your mind?"
Wow. That's such a great analogy.
When I start breaking it down to them like that, I ended up breaking even their walls down. And now more than half of those family members are like, I wouldn't say they're waving the police flag, but they're like, They understand. When they see a cop get killed in line of duty, they sympathize with it. When they see, now they're looking at things with a more objective lens than a subjective lens. One thing I taught them is this. I said, "Look, I understand you want to stand for something. So do I." I said, I have a problem with people who are neutral in most cases. I said, but it's not, the goal is not to be neutral, it's to be objective, because when you're objective, you're able to sit back, critically think, and figure out where to land once the facts come out. So being objective doesn't make you neutral. It helps you to think. And now I have them thinking before they judge. Now they call me first before they go out in the street and yell and scream. And that's what I love about it.
That's such a powerful statement. Because I mean, when you look at it, it's understanding. And how do you get that? I love that. What availability? That's
availability bias.
Yeah, that's such a powerful statement, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people are, with all the things that we have on our phones nowadays and how instant information is, we're not as resourceful in finding out a deeper meaning behind things or trying to understand it better now. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, it's not that Americans are not intelligent or intellectual. And I'm guilty of this as well. So I'm not judging anybody. It's that we've become intellectually lazy. And I know why.
Such gold just coming out. I love that. Intellectual. I love that.
Yeah, because we have everything at our fingertips now. We have, and also because we're working so much, we have kids to take to school. We don't have time to stop and fact find. If CNN tells us this happened, we just want to believe it right off the top, without knowing that CNN's trying to get ratings, CNN's trying to get sponsors, and other networks as well. And also, many of them have also become activated into activism as well. So before you jump to conclusions, know that a lot of these people are purposely racializing incidents. White cop shoots 18-year-old black baby who wanted to be a doctor, right? Things like that. They're
right.
Putting these, and then in the fine print there was an AK-47, but
stuffed in
Yeah, but people don't read the fine print. It's like they're microwave thinkers or tagline thinkers now. Well, I got the tagline, I'm good. And that's what's become of our American society. It's becoming very dangerous because people aren't critically thinking anymore. They're just jumping to the first person that tells them the story.
And this is a perfect segue into something that you created for to help young individuals, just like you, the mentor program that you created. How powerful is that to be able to go from where you became in the police service to getting to a point where you can have a program like this to help kids who are in poverty to be able to see beyond those negative circumstances? What did that mean to you when you started that program? And then what does it mean to you now to have that instilled in that community?
Well, first I have to thank my agency for being open-minded enough at the time to allow me to do that. One thing I loved about my agency at the time is they were open to new ideas to bring the community and the police together. So if you had some off-the-cuff idea, they liked it. At my division, they never said no, go do it.
That's
so
powerful.
When I actually, I'll never forget the first one. I went into the Union Rescue Mission, and the first time I met the children there, and I didn't realize there were so many children who were unhoused at the shelter. Yeah. So I did the wrong thing. I walked in there and I pandered. I did the old song and dance. Hey, let's face paint. Let's here's some baseball cards. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I did that to 5 kids, and then one little girl who was staring out of the window, a little beautiful black girl. Yeah. And I said, "Hey, girl, the party's over here. What do you want to be when you grow up?" And she looked at me and she said, "Well, if you guys don't get me and my family out of here, I'm probably going to be like these people smoking drugs on the sidewalk." Wow. And it broke my heart. My heart shattered to the point to where I had to leave and let my partners handle the meeting. So I went to the station. And I said, what can I do to show these kids that there are people who are just like them who became success? And ding, 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 it hit me. The Just Like You program was born. And I went back to the mission. I said, bring these kids to me. And I brought in janitors who had their own business, people who were in foster care, a judge who was in foster care. She came and she grew up and became a judge. Actors, a guy who I found in a dumpster covered in lice on crack, who 4 years later went on to run hotels.
Okay, oh my gosh.
And he came back and he talked to the kids, ex-gang members. And my job was to show up and just say 3 words. First, I love you, give a 20-minute speech, and then bring the speaker and bring the presenters. And I noticed it got so popular that I was requested to do it with the probation department. And I went down to the probation department, and there was a school with about 45 Black and Latino kids who were actually juveniles. They were in juvenile hall. So I walked in this place and it looked like a prison. You had the Hispanics on one sid working out, Blacks on one side working out. And then when I walked into my uniform, everybody thought I was coming to get them. It was crazy. So I was like, oh, I can't help these guys, but I never doubt the power of God. I walked in there and I told those kids how much I loved them and I didn't want to see them in handcuffs. And I gave my speech. And after about 6 months, I even brought it on a Skid Row tour when I was allowed to do it. After 6 months, their teacher said, Officer Joseph, you were the only human being who captures their attention for 45 minutes. And by the way, their grades went up 2 grade levels because of you. A police officer did that. And then I had to go back and fight crime. So
yeah, you still had to do your other job. I mean, that's amazing because you started, like you said, it really comes down to the mindset of having the availability of having somebody to present that there is more than just this that you've seen right in front of your face.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. With your family. I mean, that's the other part that you mentioned, like, how powerful is that to be able to give that to your family, to be able to have them, have their own minds and deliver that message of positivity in whatever realm they can?
Well, I think I did a bit of a too good of a job because one of my sons wants to be just like me. So,
oh, you did a great job. That means
I'm like.
Now you got fear all the time. Now
I'm like, son, you sure you don't want to be a firefighter?
Wait a second, I've never heard that happen.
But no, he's watched. And it's not a braggamony on myself, but he's watched the good Lord bless me and with numerous awards and breaking down walls and saving so many people's lives that he wanted to do the same thing. And I just love the fact that my sons are critical thinkers. A lot of cops have kids who buy into the nonsense. Like I know a female cop, a wonderful, wonderful officer who daughter doesn't speak to her because her daughter went to college and was fed all this nonsense about cops.
Oh, you gotta be kidding.
And they barely even talk. But thankfully, I was able to, talk to my sons about policing. And when we see things on the news, I'm able to explain to them, this is why the officer did that and why it was wrong or why it was right. and that it comes down to being human, not being when I explain these things, my sons are pretty sharp guys, and I love it when they go to school and tell me stories about how their teachers tried to brainwash them and they kind of shut them down because they had that
they had the intellect to be able to do that, right?
They have the counter argument ready, and that's what I love about that. So that's my goal right now, not just with my children and my family, but also to college students, church people I speak to across the country. I really want to stop this vitriolic, one-sided argument about policing, because it's getting people killed, not just cops, but it's also killing the very people that we say we're supposed to protect. So this whole anti-police movement is doing so much damage, and I can't believe that instead of cities taking a step back and saying this isn't working, some of them are still doubling down on it. When I hear about Austin, Texas, and other places like that, it's just really tragic. So if I can be one of many amplified voices getting out there and speaking the truth from my purview, then I think we can make a difference.
And it's so powerful to have somebody like yourself who has, been in it and done it. When you were patrolling the streets in that Skid Row community, talk to me more about how you were able to get those people to get, hey, Deon, how do you get that trust built up, especially like when you're saying, you have to arrest them. You have to be hard on them because that's the law. But how do you create that trust?
Yeah, it's a trippy story. I had many names. The first names that I got weren't too fine. Let me think. Some of them I can't say. I remember there's Uncle Tom, Uncle Sambo, House Negro, White Man's Lapdog, and then the names when they saw that I cared about the community, but they didn't trust me. So the names was RoboCop. Because I walked like a robot. I had all this gear. I was big and strong, and you couldn't run from me. You couldn't get away from me. I could see through the wall.
Yeah.
And then over time, the names changed to Officer Goddaddy, Uncle, Angel, and my favorite right now is Deon. No, my new favorite is Rambro. They call me Rambro.
Rambro.
And I asked this one lady. I asked this one lady in the cab. Said, "Why you guys call me Rambro?" They said, "Deon, look, whenever something happens to us, you're like a one-man army. You come up and you stand 10 toes down for us." And I'm like, oh, that made me cry. But how that happened was something I called grassroots community policing. First 7 years of my career, I was out there doing what I knew was a noble job. I was arresting bad guys left and right. Every time I opened my car door, I was stuffing bad guys and felons in it, drug dealers, murderers, rapists. But I had an optics problem because the people, all they saw was me pulling up and throwing people in the car. So the perception was, oh, I'm just here to arrest a bunch of black people, which wasn't true, but I didn't have time to stop and explain what I was doing. Then I became a senior lead officer, and I tried the same tactic and realized it wasn't working because, as far as crime reduction, because I wasn't working in a system that supported me in doing that, sort of like what we're seeing now. So I changed my tactics, and something told me to just, Deon, figuratively put your badge down and your gun down and just be a human being. And I did that, and I started walking foot beats and talking to the people. You end up finding there's a silent majority in Skid Row. I found most of the women in Skid Row supported the police. And a lot of the men did too. They couldn't say anything. Yeah. But when I keep walking and talking, that started motivating me. So, okay, I got to get these people into community meetings. I would have meetings in the streets, and then I would create these off-the-cuff programs like Ladies' Night. Ladies' Night was a program that was birthed in my heart in 1999 when I was an undercover officer in Skid Row, and women were getting raped, but they were afraid to tell anything because activists in the area, as well as their Johns and their attackers, were telling them, "Oh, if you go to the police, they're going to arrest you because you're a prostitute." That was a lie, but nobody vocalized from our agency vocalized that to them. So in 2008. Based on the relationships I established from networking with the missions and shelters, they allowed me to use one of their centers. And I set out about 150 chairs, only expecting 15 women to show up. But because of the reputation that I had established and the rapport, 175 homeless women showed up to the first Ladies' Night.
Wow.
And what they got, and what they got to hear was, and what they got to hear was, I don't care if you're a prostitute on the pole, on the pipe or on parole or undocumented, if somebody sexually assaults you or abuses you physically, you have just as much right to report these things as a Kardashian. And I rolled out the
Right.
red carpet for them. I didn't give them second rate. I had the red carpet. I had city council members there. I had DA, deputy district attorneys there. I had pizza. I had a DJ. And these ladies,
That's
and I
awesome.
also brought my brother to teach them self-defense. So not enough to kick my butt, but enough to survive an attack.
Right.
And
That's
and that
amazing.
right there started to change the dynamic, because now those ladies were going out and saying, hey, there's this cop who really cares about us. And the word began to spread, and other programs I created. So I call it grassroots, because the definition of grassroots is making a marginalized part of any community feel like a part of any movement. And I wanted Skid Row to feel like a part of our movement to make Skid Row safer, to counter what the activists were doing, who were trying to say that we were there to rouse them because they were homeless or because they were Black. And it
Right.
actually worked, and it helped support an initiative called the Safer Cities Initiative that helped drive crime down 40%, death down 33%. And I knew it would work because prior to those initiatives, I single-handedly reduced crime 18% through high visibility and community policing. And
Wow.
the best part of it all was, because of the relationships I established, the community, without me offering them anything, even arrestees, were giving
Right.
me information on the biggest dope dealers in Skid Row. And from that, we were able to create unprecedented injunctions that barred 75 drug dealers from Skid Row who didn't live there, or they were just pretending under the guise of homelessness. I
Yeah.
was able to get the biggest dope dealer in Skid Row and get him kicked out of the state once, and got him 8 years in prison the second time. A community cop did that. So for
That's
everybody listening,
amazing.
for anyone listening thinking, oh, this is just Officer Hug-a-Thug. No, I hate crime too. I just go about it differently.
You didn't just say that. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. But the biggest thing though is just like, no matter whether someone's a gang member or a social worker, I treat them exactly the same. Look, I can't stand what gang members do, but if a
Right.
gang member or a drug addict needs my help, damn it, I'm gonna go and give them everything I got, and I think that's why the people respect me.
Oh, by far. And stepping forward, how much did you have fear when you stepped forward those to do these new and different things? Did you have that fear to begin with, that maybe it won't work, or maybe, if it doesn't work, then everybody's going to look at me differently? How did you get past that?
The funny thing is, I did not have a fear, and the
Oh, that's
reason why is
awesome.
the way I was my upbringing with my parents.
Yeah.
I literally watched my parents raise 41 foster children in their 47-year marriage.
Oh, wow.
My mother and father fed the homeless religiously for 10 years before my mom passed. And my dad employed ex-convicts and people who needed a second chance, or people who couldn't find work because of their race, and things of that nature. So when I started these programs, it was already in me. So there was no fear. I knew it would work because I did the work. I laid the groundwork prior to initiating the programs. I had the respect of the community. If you don't get the respect of the community or the community buy-in
Right.
through building trust and building those bridges, of course it's not going to work. But I knew in my heart that these programs were going to have impact on the people's lives, and I'm so glad that it did. Not one doubt in my mind that it wouldn't work.
I love this. Deon, it's been such an honor. Make sure you go to deonjoseph.org. You can find out more, have him come out and speak. Powerful voice, powerful actions you do. I've got 3 questions for you before you leave and go back on vacation. Are you ready?
Shoot.
All right. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
I wish I would have met my wife then.
She's going to have to listen to this.
Had to kiss a few frogs before I met her, but yeah. I wish I would have met her earlier.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right. The second one is everybody's going through challenges and struggles. If you could give them 2 habits to incorporate into their daily life that could help them to continue to move forward, to advance forward, what would those 2 things be?
Well, I'm a man of faith, and so I'm not preaching to anybody, but every morning, I don't care what you do for a living, but especially if you're a first responder, I get up and I sit on my front porch and I pray to my personal higher power, which is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I say this, I said, Father, where I'm weak, make me strong. Where I'm broken, heal me. Where I lack courage, give me the courage of a lion. And where I lack wisdom, Father, provide it to me when it's needed. And I say that every morning. And on top of that, when I get to work, I have a mantra I repeat to myself every day. And that states, and my badge and my gun and my handcuffs will never be the means I utilize to invoke positive change in people's lives. My heart, my faith, and my love for mankind will always be my unyielding dogs of war. I tell myself these two things every day, and it motivates me. So you just have to find something to motivate you to be a catalyst for good. I don't care if it's a song. I don't care if it's a saying. You say it to yourself every morning, and it keeps you from getting burned out, because after 27 years of policing, 25 of those years in Skid Row, I never got burned out. The only thing making my job right now is not a lack of love or passion for the job. It's the politicians and the politics right now. But outside of that, the fire's still in me to go out there and give 110% to the people I serve. And
that's amazing.
Yep.
Those are good habits right there. All right, this last one's going to be fun. If you could have coffee at a firehouse table, so you know there's nothing that you can't ask and will be answered, with three people, they can be deceased or alive, who would those three people be?
Oh, wow, that's dope. Let me think. Definitely Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes.
How he had the resolve. This is a man who made the ultimate sacrifice to try to bring people together. Definitely Dr. Martin Luther King. Who else? I said living or dead, right?
Living or dead, yep.
Thomas Sowell. I discovered Thomas Sowell about 4 years ago, and I started reading a couple of his books, and his mind, he inspires me. What inspires him to be different, to go against the grain and tell the truth, and tell his truth with logic and reason, and not get attacked. They haven't come for him yet because he's right. and it was somebody recent who I really, if I could go back in time and holler at, not Gandhi. It was I can't remember. I was just talking to my brother about it the other day, and now it slips my mind. But you know what? My father. And my father is he's with the Lord. He's one of my heroes. But just to see what caused him to go from being a violent youth in the Jim Crow South who had to survive and hurt people to survive, where was the switch? I want to see that moment when he switched and said, "I'll never hurt another human being to get what I need," and then to have the strength to give back when he became successful. I want some of that in me to keep me going. I think it's already there. I just want to know. Yeah. I just want to listen to how again, and it's just those three people right there. I would love to sit down and talk with them.
That's a perfect table right there. Deon, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you go to deonjoseph.org. You can find out more about all the great things he's doing. Deon, you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. God bless you. Take care.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.